So welcome everyone. Just kind of a quick update. As you know, I've been trying to get a hold of my smart contract programmer that was helping me, and I to no avail. So I took over and basically was fixing everything last night. I got it almost completed last night. Probably finish it this morning. And so those are the testnet contracts that allow us to bridge between the different test nets. And so that's really going along well. And Brent's been focusing with Henrique and I on the last piece of that, which is in the list, which is the ZK SNARK not roll-ups, but the ZK SNARK verification of the bridging and the creation of the like a transfer function or a transaction function. So we have all the ZK SNARKs working and stuff like that. We're struggling a little bit with Nil Foundation's compiler, but it's getting pretty close. What do you think, Brent? I mean, you've been kind of in there with Henrique quite a bit more than I have in the last couple of days because I've been focused on the smart contracts. So,
Oh yeah, certainly the and kind of deciphering some of the finer points of what Nil Foundation has offered as its configuration levers, etc., for that are pertinent to the fact that we're of course hybridizing not just the proving for the succinct blockchain, but we're also capturing the privacy capabilities of the SNARKs, which I know you didn't ask this, but I always find it a little bit amazing that SNARKs are capable of both, and yet it seems like we're almost standing alone as a blockchain that says, well, if they offer both, why don't you leverage both? Duh. But never mind that. But yeah, so that is coming along as we continue to ensure that those two are playing well together, those two capabilities, and some of the configuration pieces, we're still making certain that we're getting the right performance results from the SNARK execution, such as the size of the SNARK. The proof size is at the moment a little larger than we'd like, but we're again figuring out those configuration levers to get the size to something that is suitable for our blockchain.
yeah, and I wrote up a document based on kind of the ZK SNARK stuff, and did I post that? So I just posted something on docs.genius.ai, and I think I tweeted about it out there. In general, what it is that the kind of talking about, I might not have posted this particular document that we have internally, but I should, because one of the things with the compiler is we're finding that the SNARK size is supposed to be like 5 kilobytes or less, and actually it should be a couple hundred bytes more than likely, but from all the literature that I've read, but we're at like 400 kilobytes, and we can't be sharing that much data on the blockchain and storing that our blockchain would just grow exponentially. So it's kind of a bug that we're trying to figure out more than anything else. I mean, the stuff works and it compiles and it runs mostly, but it's just like, okay, why is it generating 400 kilobytes when it should be generating 400 bytes, right? And there's a couple other little things that we're kind of working on figuring out, like this thing called public parameters versus private parameters. And I don't want to get too technical because I know a lot of the audience isn't, but it's going pretty well. It's just been kind of a headache that, I haven't been able to find one of my devs, and I've had to jump in there and do it. It's kind of taken away from the other part that I was going to work on, but that it's all good because I wrote most of those contracts anyway, so I'm able to kind of jump in there pretty quickly and see if I can fix it. But in general, I'm going to be hiring a new smart contract dev eventually after testnet, but I can't afford the time really to get somebody up to speed on our smart contracts. But if there's somebody out there that has looked at our smart contracts and can actually show me that they can edit it and make a change to it and submit it, I'd hire you probably in pretty quickly. If you can write the tests and things like that and look at our system, because it's very out of the ordinary in terms of software development in the crypto space. We actually are real software developers, meaning, they're real too, but just meaning that we do unit tests and other kind of testing and make sure that our stuff works correctly before we give it to auditors. In fact, the auditors complimented me on the code last time I submitted it to them. They weren't used to getting a battery of tests that stress test the smart contract. They're like, usually we have to write these, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna sit back and just shove a bunch of code at you and let you write it and and not test everything. That's just how I am. So it's funny. All right, so anything else you want to say? Maybe we should kind of ease into the questions.
I think we can ease into the questions, but yeah, I will kind of second the test driven development. I mean, that's just kind of the ethos that I carry. Myself, Ken and I are similar in this way into everything, because as far as I'm concerned, just as code is being developed, to be testing it all along, as opposed to the big bang at the end, like, oh, we've been writing this for 5 years. By the way, what happens if we try to run it? It's like, what? What are you talking about? Okay, well, let's go ahead and step into our first of our questions. Let's see, it says, love that GNUS is finally getting a lot of coverage on X, and people are bullish on GNUS again. But what's the long-term strategy to make the masses aware of GNUS?
Well, that's we have a bunch of marketing going on. We just we signed. Well, I don't know if we completely signed the agreement, but we're putting it together with like addresses and stuff like that with a major eighth largest coal out there, or influencer, if you will. So we have plenty of plans to do that. As soon as Testnet's launched and we can focus on that, there's going to be a huge marketing push. I just was at an AI conference, or talking about GNUS through Orbis 86, and I'm going to be flying down to LA on Monday for another conference, and it's only in front of like 200 or 300 people, but that exposure is kind of crazy. And I think after I did that and talked to some people, there was a bunch of VCs there. I think a couple of them jumped in yesterday, and that's what kind of drove the price up a little bit after I talk. And so it seems like really me going to these events that are like 3 or 4 hour side events at these AI conferences or these blockchain conferences is really beneficial to getting it out, getting the word out, because there's like 200, and they tell a friend, and they each tell a friend, and so we're doing that, but more for the the bigger catch, if you will. It's a lot of marketing going forward into Twitter Spaces and X and tweets and things like that. And so we have all the coals lined up to do that, and they're working on that, which is great. We may continue to like advertise. I think when Testnet's at, we'll have a lot more ammunition, if you will, for marketing purposes. And every time we make an improvement or something like that, we can say, hey, the Testnet's out now, it does this feature or that. But that's going to be kind of weird because Testnet has all the features. And so it's really, I guess it's more, we're onboarding this particular group and they have 200,000 nodes, or this board, this one's been onboarded and they're live. So I think that's what we're going to be doing more than saying, we have this new feature available, because I take that back. All the features are available with Testnet.
Something I'd like to add to that is, when Ken says something like, okay, I'm going to go down to LA and I'm going to be speaking, and there's only going to be 200 or 300 people there. For those of you who've been following us for a while now, there is a kind of a reoccurring message, and I just don't think we're going to depart from it. Certainly I'm not, which is hearing that, only 200 to 300 people, me? My attitude is, thank goodness it's not more, because as you've heard it said before, if you've been following us, the problem is not how do we get people to hear about us and join our network. It's how do we keep the zombie horde at bay? Like wait, slow down. So I'm glad to hear Ken say it's 200 to 300, because if he said 30,000, I'd have a heart attack. It's like, we already have so much demand.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you're right. I mean, yesterday after I came back, it was it yesterday? So I met this council member from Palo Alto who's a software engineer, and I gave him a ride back from San Francisco down to his office in Palo Alto. We got to talking, and he got on the phone with somebody else who's like from Warner Brothers or something like that. They're like, we want to talk to you about your AI stuff. And I'm like, whoa. Just from the one introduction. And then I came back, and on my, yesterday on my, so this was actually 2 nights ago, because yesterday I did a lot of coding. Time's flying. I'm telling you. I mean, I don't know what happened to yesterday. It was like I looked up, I got in at, like I did some work at home and I got in at 10:30 and all of a sudden it was like 3 o'clock. But anyway, yesterday I got so many pings from people. Hey, we like Genius AI. Can we onboard? Can we onboard? I got like 10 things yesterday from those 200 or 300 people. It's like, oh, okay, you're ready to go. And I'm like, no, we said we're going to launch testnet soon. Then I can start talking to you. But yeah, I got like 10 pings yesterday on Telegram. So, yeah, you're right. All right. So let's go on with the next question.
All right, next question. Will you and Brent remain in control and expand the organization long term, or will you consider being bought out by larger companies if the offer arises?
Well, it would have to be something spectacular where I could remain on the project and drive it forward. I will never let this project die and somebody like buy us and then shelve it for any amount of money because that's not the point of this project. Never has been. It's like, look, I'm at the end of my career, really. This is my last thing that I'll ever work on in my life, I believe. Well, okay, I have a game in mind, but it's going to go towards Genius and it has to use Genius. So I can't let the project die. So I'll never retire probably. I just love what I do. So in general, it could be a possibility, but it would have to be like, okay, there'd have to be things in there. If you're going to kill the project, I get it back. Basically, you can pay me $1 billion, to move the project forward and we can partner up and then, I'll still want to be in control or at least, a huge part of it, maybe a board member or something like that. But it would have to be a deal that says if the project doesn't meet these milestones or it's not growing or they want to shelve it like a lot of companies do, the competitors will buy you and then shelve your project. Not going to happen.
Yeah, kind of a terminus ad quem. You have to have demonstrated that your share in this company has pulled it forward, not just like it's now stagnating somehow, because that needs to not happen. It needs to just keep rolling forward like a freight train. Okay, so next question. I believe at one point taking the company public with an IPO was mentioned. Is this still in the long-term plans?
I would say that one of the companies probably. I don't know if Genius Ventures, the parent company that funds most of these projects, will itself be public. But we have Graffiti Entertainment that is a sister company, and I have a major share. I'm a major shareholder in that, and I'd love to see that taken back public. So there will be something, and they'll have a bunch of tokens in there. I'm not saying no because I've been being hit up by some pretty big people to take it public, and it is an option as well. It's in the background. We will take something public, but it may not be the main holding company, Genius Ventures per se. But then again, it might. You never know. I mean, it's if we can move it forward and we can raise a bunch of capital and become the next NVIDIA, market cap, sure, then we might do that.
Okay. I think that's kind of a good tandem question for what we were just already answering the previous question, but let's see. Let's jump into our next question here. Can we bring Michael Tara as a speaker for an AMA? Why aren't we utilizing such an experienced advisor, and why hasn't he posted about Genius?
He really wants testnet to be out there before he starts speaking. I asked him if he'd come on and speak, and he's like, just get your testnet out and then I'll come help you. And he has some more introductions that he wants to make. He's been a great advisor, but he's kind of busy with his own things. But in general, yeah, once we have testnet launch, I'll drag him, kicking and screaming into an AMA or a podcast or something. I might just interview him directly too and just, post that on YouTube or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. I think that makes sense. I think it's just kind of in the nature of software that any investor is going to be like, well, let's someone who's a partner, participant, advisory role, whatever. It's like, well, let's put it out there and then let's have that discussion. So it's pretty common.
Well, also he was 20 years in IR and PR and investor relations and public relations alongside Jensen. So he's probably a little gun shy about getting his face out there again and getting hammered. But also, yeah, when testnet's launched, I'll see if he. And by the way, if anybody's wondering if he really, you know, is in with Genius, just go look at his LinkedIn profile. He put it in there as an advisor. So
So, all right, I think we're going to go ahead and jump into our next question here. This one just kind of bubbled up. Hello, bosses. How are you both today? Most questions are about how Genius is progressing. We want to know where you both see the project and yourselves in the future. How about that?
yeah, that's a great question. So I'll let you go first, Brent, since I've been answering most of the questions.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll kind of answer it in backward, order. Where do you see yourself in the future? I would say continuing on this path, leading the pointing edge of this kind of blockchain Web3 development. I know, Ken, you don't like the name Web3, but because of the good that it does, that slogan you've heard us sometimes use, AI for good. I tell you, I am completely captivated by that. I am very, very dedicated to technology and my work in that space. And so to have it be applied to something that is so valuable to, someone might say, oh, is it to this sector? Is it to that sector? It's like, are you kidding? It's valuable to humanity. It's so broad. So my sense is, no, I would just want to keep on doing this. And it's kind of like Ken's earlier comment about, well, this is his last hurrah. And then I gave a look on the camera like, yeah, we'll see, buddy, because, you're never going to stop. And that's where I am too, because what I don't want is to, end up on a beach retired somewhere. I'd get bored in 5 minutes. I'd lose my mind. I'd have to race back to my desk to get something else done. So, that's kind of, where I see myself, and how I'm doing. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be in this space. And I'm doing my best to practice, be in the present, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, this is, about to be unleashed. And, I was like, calm yourself, Brent, focus. So it's a good place to be. Good place to be.
Yeah, and I that's why I brought you in, Brent, because I know that you'd be passionate about changing the world and disrupting the world and disrupting this industry. And so even though, it's, a lot for you to take in at once, I've been at it for 8 years and, you haven't been in the web space really. You're, kind of off doing the enterprise stuff, but now you're in here and you're in the cult. So yeah, for me personally, it's going pretty well. I've done a lot of, I had kind of a health issue, but it wasn't a big health issue. It was just a leaky gut type of thing, which caused a bunch of weird stuff that I'd never seen before. And I work out pretty regularly, but I haven't in like 2 months because of this leaky gut and the vertigo stuff that was happening. But I just got my cancer screening back and it was clear, so that's good. I'm getting up there in the age where, you got to start worrying about your health, but I've been working out since I was, 18. So it's pretty much, I know what to do health wise and eating wise and things like that. So I'm pretty good and my family's really, good and supportive and which is really nice. And you speak about not being on a beach. I actually, envision being in this nice, 80-foot yacht with Starlink, so that I can wake up and go for a swim in the Caribbean and then jump out and get on my computer on the desk. But yeah, I'm not quitting. That's my retirement. It's like, I'll go for a swim for an hour and then I'll jump out of the boat and, code for a couple hours. And then maybe I'll take the jet ski out and then come back and, all hooked up to Starlink. So I have, ultra high speed internet access and I can do AI stuff and things like that. So I think that's, a couple of years down the road, but that would be a nice kind of lifestyle for me personally. But I do have a younger wife. She's 11 years younger than me. So she still has a long ways to go to retire. So even though I say, oh, I could retire and, I'm thinking about it, it's like you said, Brett, never going to happen. So I'm pretty happy with my life in general. I try to take out all the negativity and just be grateful for everything I've been given over the years and I'm a little disappointed in America right now, just, everything we're doing, but I'm still here. I'm still an American citizen for now. It's just, I don't like the endless wars and, all this infighting and stuff like that. So it's not good for humanity. And my tagline is, AI for the good of humanity. And when other people are doing stuff that's not for the good of humanity, it really bothers me.
All the more reason for us to be diligent and focused on what we're doing. I mean, that kind of negative energy most definitely needs its counter. Now, Ken, since you happen to have brought up health in there, I do want to say for the listeners out there that as though Ken has brought it up in the past, really, as I see it, it's much ado about nothing. Because while he had some, symptoms that he really thought were alarming, it did come down to that leaky gut thing, and it's like, well, hey, Ken, welcome to the club. This is where some like over half the country has some amount of that. And the fact that Ken took so long to join the club is just because he has the constitution like of an elephant. It's like it's almost impossible to bring him down. So in any case, and he's got that figured out. And so, back online, and it's really fantastic to see Ken where he's in a place now, like just so much at his best. I mean, I can even speak over the last 3 or 4 days, the amount of material that's been pumped from Ken, technical materials, is just really awe-inspiring, and that's a consequence of a person who's really in his game. So I really appreciate that question, by the way. That was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. And if you're ready, Ken, I'll just go ahead and jump to the next question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, the wallet looks amazing, darn straight. Is it fully done to be used?
It is waiting on us to finish our part so that we can integrate the SDK. And we've already integrated the SDK before in that video application that we showed at Crypto Nights, and then the game. So we've done it before, and we have the ability to integrate with Unity games very easily. In fact, that was a Unity game that we integrated with. So it's just waiting on us to finish. But yeah, it's about 90% done, just waiting on a couple things from us. And then, yeah, I got a couple great guys that are doing the wallet and the Dart, and he took over. He wasn't so the wallet's written in something called Flutter, which uses Dart, and he wasn't a Dart programmer. But oh my God, he's become a Dart programmer. He was in JavaScript and HTML stuff and things like that. Really great guy. Shout out to you, Matt. Really appreciate the work on that, and you, Eduardo, as well. And even Jesse, I think, has been contributing to it. So yeah, the wallet was always intended to be kind of our service. It provides a service in the background. You basically load the wallet or download the wallet, and then it'll ask if it can install a service, and that service is the GNUS.AI test network that it installs. So absolutely, that's going to be available along with a game and probably a streaming application for everybody to test on the testnet.
Okay, excellent. I think I'm just going to go ahead and roll into the next question here. Do you plan to use existing team members or hire new people as trainers for onboarding projects with the SDK? Is it open to community members, I guess, to play that role?
Yeah. Actually, I really appreciate this question because I really think that the community is going to be very integral into scaling well. We are going to hire based on who wants to integrate GNUS, and the integration side. And this is not integrating the software. This is integrating into these big companies that are requesting the AI, and for them to integrate and switch off of Amazon and switch off of Google and OpenAI and all that. Because they're paying exorbitant amounts. We just talked with somebody yesterday that said they were spending $100 million a year on compute or something like that. I was like, wow, what? And so I'm like, okay. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. And if we can reduce our costs, from 100 million down to 20 million, that benefits them and it benefits us, which we'll need to hire. And it's funny because somebody on Twitter, speaking of this, somebody on Twitter had mentioned something, and we were thinking about these bigger companies. We're like, oh, well, we could hire Deloitte to basically put our software on there, but they're not, they're sort of into crypto. But then somebody on Twitter, a VC, was like, oh, somebody needs to start something like Palantir, who does this kind of integration work like Deloitte does, I guess. And they became, nobody thought Palantir was going to be a great company. They're like $1 billion company or whatever. And somebody needs to start a Y Combinator group that basically does that for crypto projects. And I'm like, yes, definitely, because I'd rather use them than go off and pay Deloitte a couple $1 million and have them slow roll, the integration of this stuff into the enterprise companies. Because, granted, we get a piece up front with the licensing fee and stuff like that, but I want to get it done and make the big bucks and make the transactions start happening for the whole network to benefit. And so I think, there would be definitely a community based. It'd be very much appreciated if the community got involved somehow and we could pay them and they could get up to speed on how to integrate it. And we'd probably be on a hiring spree to do that if they're up to speed and everything, because Deloitte has to come up to speed. They've done it for years on enterprise software, but yeah, I'd really appreciate the community helping out.
Actually, it occurs to me, Ken, as I listen to you, the emergence of a model of people who become experts unto themselves in helping companies on board, and then they find themselves, being paid on their own contract to that, as an independent who then helps XYZ company. They're making a living. It's just a derivative aspect of how people are benefiting from this, and that could be done without any, explicit connection to GNUS AI. Obviously, we'd always want it, in a model like that, we would certainly want to support those people like crazy. But I could absolutely see that people would make a career of doing nothing but that. Just going from integration to integration to integration onward, and for the next 10 years. So
so I did that actually for about 5 years after after my company, I disconnected from Signature Devices and Graffiti Entertainment for about 5 years. I was constantly being integrating or looking at different software pieces and being paid a lot of money to fly around the country and do analysis of things from JD Powers to Eddie Bauer and all that. You can see that on my LinkedIn resume. And I made a really damn good living at it. It wasn't the best thing for me, though, because I wanted to get on to something I enjoyed more. But I enjoyed it, but it wasn't, I would much rather have worked on GNUS at the time than do that. But it was very, very, very lucrative. And I know this will be very lucrative. I mean, look, Deloitte makes a lot of money. They put like 4 or 5 guys and make $2-3 million in 4 or 5 months, just giving them a paper saying how to integrate. They don't do anything other than, oh, this is how we're going to do it. Right. And then that's a couple $1 million from them. So, and like 10 people that just know their stuff go in there and just kind of analyze stuff. And that's what I was doing for JD Power. I'd write up a paper, basically on all the technology and how they all integrated and what the next steps forward were. And they would pay me, a lot of money for that. Something like $500 an hour to do that kind of stuff. It was crazy.
So as much as it sounds like that worked out for you, Ken, I am glad that you've left behind that model and that you are now, serving the role that you are here with GNUS AI, because if I, flattery will get me everywhere if I say to the public what I've said internally, which is Ken has his Steve Jobs persona. And I think Steve Jobs is better in the role that, Ken playing this role right now is better for that inner Steve Jobs he has. In fact, I wonder if like this Christmas, I should be sending him a black turtleneck sweater or something. To remind him of just how much better off he is. This is truly and fully utilizing who he is, other than going off there and doing those kinds of contracts. So with that, I'll go ahead and roll into the next question. Are you still working on a bridge, or is this still on pause? Do you plan on adding more liquidity to the Polygon base, BNB pairs?
So the bridge, that's actually what I was working on. We're kind of have our own bridge because we have to bridge in and out of the smart contracts on the Super Genius network. And so if you bridge in and out, into Super Genius, that is kind of our own bridge. And that's what I was talking about yesterday that I was, it's in our list of tasks to do. And that's exactly what I was working on yesterday was the bridging. And you can check out this Genius AI. Look on GitHub/Genius Venture/Genius-AI. That smart contract, you can see the check-ins that I've made. And you can see there's a bridge function in there now. And so, yeah, absolutely been working on the bridge. And that's one of the things that kind of slowed us down a little bit from shipping is because I couldn't get a hold of my smart contract guy to finish that up. And so I had written most of it previously, but he took it over and was doing a pretty good job, but can't get a hold of him. So I had to jump in there and just get heads down. And that is the bridging. It kind of bridges through Genius. And I think that's probably better even than Axler because then we can build in some better security like two-factor authentication and the ZK SNARKs and all that, which none of the other bridges have that. And if you go ahead and bridge it into Super Genius, then you can just leave it there and do all these gas-free transactions if you want. And then you can take it out to like Polygon or take it out to Ethereum when you're done. And so, yeah, that bridging will happen when mainnet is released for sure. But currently, and I think there's a question about this later on for the manual bridging, but right now we're doing manual for security reasons. It's like, look, I cannot just have a bridge up there and have somebody hack it and all of a sudden they drain, or they mint something on accident or hacking, minting, and then just like the Axler bridge got broken. I'm not gonna open the bridge to automatic bridging until we're absolutely sure that nobody can break it or hack it.
And actually, in that same arena, I've spilled over myself a little bit into that space. I've been poking at Ken about, okay, the control logic that governs the bridging process, because, issues like the atomicity that you have available to as a core capability of an EVM, when you're talking about these kinds of distributed transactions, there is a need for a different approach. And so this is an area of absolute expertise for me. So, of course, I'm going to insert myself and be that little pesky dog on Ken, like, okay, like this. All right, we got it,
Oh, and he has been for sure. So you use some very big words there, Brent. Remember our audience, atomicity, and you used EVM and a couple other words.
Oh, those words don't mean anything. I just made them up, so don't worry. No.
Ethereum virtual machine for everybody that doesn't know, that just means that's the bytecode is just instructions for the Ethereum virtual machine, which is a little program that basically evaluates another program bytecode and runs things like smart contracts and the code in a smart contract. Just so everybody knows, I hate it when and tell them what atomicity is.
Oh, the atomicity is you want to have what is otherwise multiple operations, 2 operations, 3 operations, 5 operations. You want them treated as if they were exactly one, because you either want to be in a good state of where things were before, or you want to be in a good state of where things are now transitioning to. And granted, to move from one state to another, even if it's just something as simple as, updating your balance and you're receiving money, there are interim steps that happen to get from point A to point B. And you absolutely must either be at point A or at point B. And you don't ever want to be left stuck somewhere in the middle. And again, this is an area of expertise for me. And I do have to apologize for going into the technical realm, but when it comes to these kinds of deep technical things, it's like a bright, shiny object for me. And as soon as I have that chance, I will pounce. And then Ken has to, call her. He's like, okay, Brent, okay, all right, raise the abstraction up, Brent, keep it simple. Yeah. So, just all part of the dynamic of us working together. I think we're ready for our next question. Let's see. Will you offer airdrops for testnet users in addition to their rewards for contributing GPU power when it opens to the public as an incentive to attract users?
Yeah, actually, I will. We'll probably do something where, depending on how many transactions you make or things like that, we'll probably pay the wallets out some airdrop kind of as payments for that. Just we have a dashboard that will show us kind of what people are doing in terms of transactions and things like that. And so, yeah, we can easily airdrop, and I think that's a great idea. I was planning on doing something like that anyway because I don't expect testers to come in and just work for free, but really they're going to be getting paid anyway in the GNUS tokens. And here's the thing with the 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 earnings and stuff like that, even though they're testnet tokens, we will still allow you to bridge those earnings out to Ethereum. So you actually are going to get paid anyway. So if you're running the application, you're playing the game, and there's transactions going on in the background, even though they initially will be on like Sepolia testnet and things like that, we will actually kind of mint those for you on Ethereum or Polygon to pay you out. So yeah, it's not like you aren't going to get paid out anyway. But then we'll probably see if that's depending on we have also the bounty stuff too, that you can earn money if you find bugs and things like that. We'll be paying out bounties in GNUS tokens. And then, but we'll probably see just how much you're getting paid out. And if we feel like, oh, that's not really a lot, maybe we'll pay out more, because I'm well aware that testers and people that are finding the bugs are very, 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 very valuable to me.
Awesome. I think I'll just go ahead and move into the next question here. Will users of the wallet be able to see their earnings for using their GPUs?
Yeah, we will have a dashboard, and I think the dashboard will eventually be built in to the wallet itself. But I think it's external currently, and so you'll have access to that where you can kind of see pulling up. It's completely open. The blockchain is available now. It won't show. You won't really be able to figure. Well, we kind of hide the amounts and the addresses of who is earning, but you'll know that inside your wallet, because we create another derivative wallet address for the Super Genius network. But you'll know that, so you can go look up yourself. But somebody would only know, oh, this wallet's making this amount of money, but they wouldn't be able to tie it to like an Ethereum address or anything like that. So it's kind of privacy preserving that way. But yeah, you'll be able to look that up. I don't know where the wallet is in terms of pulling that information into the wallet itself and see what your Genius earnings are. But we do have an external dashboard, and we do plan on integrating that into the wallet.
Okay, excellent. I think that captures that question. Let's see. 11 million tokens unlock starting in February. Can you provide assurance that no one will be sold on open market? Or if not, how many do you think may be sold?
Yeah, so I can assure you that none of those will be sold on the open market. Those are all team tokens and my tokens. And so, that's my guarantee that I'm not going to go and blast out, 11 million tokens, and the team is not allowed to do that either. Our first thing is we're going to do 3 steps. We're going to say first right of refusal is GNUS.AI buying them back, with the money that's in the treasury, so that we can turn around and burn them. Secondly, then OTC deals will be second. And then very last might be a little tiny bit for people, but not in February. I'm paying everybody already. So, those are long-term holds for these guys. And so in general, it's in the team pool, and it's in one address. And then there will be some unlocked for some of the coals and stuff, but I doubt it's probably going to be more than 50,000 over the course of, well, I think the total is 50,000, maybe 100,000, but so 50,000 might be unlocked on February 28th for those guys if they really need the money. But like I said, it's going to be, okay, Genius gets first right of refusal for those to buy those back, and then OTC sales, we'll get an OTC sale on it before we actually do that, and we'll fund, if an OTC sale is 20% discount, then we'll fund, give them a few extra tokens to make the OTC deal, just to make sure it's not coming, we're not flooding the market with the 11 million tokens. That's not going to happen.
And I will follow up by, saying kind of on this topic what I myself have said before, which is we didn't do all this work so that we could undermine the collective purpose of Genius AI by such I don't know, irresponsible behavior. I don't know how else to say it. We're very focused on what this means, what it's meant to become, and so that's not in our interest to be behaving contrary to the goals of Genius AI. So let's see. Moving into our next question. No, see. Okay, how and when can we connect with Genius devs to learn more about, including the SDK for apps and video games made by our software developers club?
So as soon as Testnet's launched, then we will start to ramp up our white glove service, if you will, or the integration phase or the scaling phase of the different people. But we are going to rely on good documentation for the smaller entities. But we do have some people that we can hire, but we're going to rely on the community to kind of help with that too, because we'll train the trainers, but we're going to need the community to kind of step up and do this for the smaller devs and things like that have questions. But we have Discord open and things like that, so we'll be able to use those platforms to basically answer the smaller entities while we focus on the 200,000 ISP launch. But we'll have time for a few questions, but we'd kind of filter that through the community so that we can build up a FAQ and a Q&A and all that. And so I think there will be time definitely allocated right after testnet.
I think we're going to reach a interval rapidly where the quantity of people that we could call devs is going to grow quite a bit, because certainly there is internal hiring at Genius AI as an option, but remember what we were talking about earlier, that the spin-off of an industry of people who become experts in this, and then you've got community members who are themselves technical, who are just simply interested in furthering the value of their Genius coins. I mean, I think what's going to happen is it's going to come out of every direction of who's going to grow into these kinds of roles. So not just the devs internally, although as Ken's pointing out, that's also an option after we get to testnet. So, okay, moving into our next question here. Have you any plans on listing on any tier 1 exchanges anytime soon? If so, what exchange are you most likely to list on? Are you in talks with any already?
We have a plan, and I wouldn't say it's anytime soon. My main goal is to list on Coinbase as a tier 1. I have not talked to KuCoin or any of the other ones. We are on Bitmart. I know that's L2 or tier 2. Yeah, we may do that, but in general, once we're launched in mainnet, which would be probably, I would say, early 2025, like January 2025, where mainnet is just like off to running and we have time to fund, going on the bigger exchanges, then we'll do that. But at this point, the price is going to grow, because when we are on mainnet, it's just going to grow significantly quickly. But the reason I'm hesitating is because everybody's been asking me, how can I buy this through Coinbase? Right? The people that we're dealing with that want to come on board, the old enterprise enterprise companies that want to use AI and have us displace Amazon, they know nothing about KuCoin or any of the other tier 1s, and so they're like, how do I can open up a Coinbase account, no problem, right? And do it that, and then how do I buy your token through there? And then I have to tell them, well, you have to convert it to Ethereum, then you have to go in the Coinbase wallet on your phone, and then you have to swap it. And they're just like, what? It's like, how come I can't just use my credit card or deposit some money? And so Yeah, our main goal is to go on to something like Coinbase eventually because our customers that want to use the AI are kind of demanding that we be on some kind of payment ramp that they're used to in reducing the friction. They don't have any knowledge about crypto.
So I think you get a little bit of a sense of a timeline there, and I think that that's going to help answer that question. I think that also took care of the next question. So I'm going to skip a little bit and go to you mentioned planning to raise funds through family offices. Do you also plan to raise funds through other means such as VCs?
Uh, it would have to be the right VC. I don't plan on it. The reason that we are going for family offices is because they are unlike VCs, right? And VCs typically, I live in Silicon Valley and a mile from Sand Hill Road. And my kids went to school with a lot of VC kids, and there's some good ones, but most of them are just recycling money. And when you recycle money, the problem is that you don't build a good business and you don't build a sustainable business. It's just like, okay, well, 1 in 10, but or I think it's even worse now, maybe 1 in 15 of their businesses is a spaghetti approach. And I'm not gonna compete with 15 other businesses at your whim just to make money because this is not what this project is about. And so VCs have a tendency, if there's a little hiccup, they'll try to pivot you. And I'm not pivoting this business. Like I said, I won't sell this business either. And so VCs are all about the money and, okay, what's your exit strategy? And when I tell them I don't really have an exit strategy, I'm not exiting this business. This thing's going to go on forever. And I'm going to use the system to basically build other things, of course, but I'm not exiting. Like I said, this is not about me making money. I've had a long, illustrious career, made enough money where I could retire now. And so this is more about humanity and the good for AI. So I don't. It's one of the reasons I'm not anti VC, but it has to be the right ones because a lot of the old school ones. I had a meeting with a guy for a couple hours who was just like, well, how do I make money on this and blah, blah, blah. And how do I, what's my return going to be? And it's like, oh my God, your return is helping humanity, not, money will come and you'll make a good return, but I'm not going to focus on the secondary part of this, which is how much money can you make, right? That's not what this project's about. So that's why, it has to be the right VC if anybody, but family offices a lot of them are like, hey, look, we've made our money too, and we know how to start businesses. And, we like to have impact, and that's what we do. We like, multi-billion-dollar businesses that we have, and we own like 10 of them. And so let's make an impact. And yeah, you can build a business as well, but you have to be impact first or AI for good first and stop talking about the money. And VCs always want to be money first.
Kind of echoing my own thoughts on what Ken is saying. Ken, in a way, you're a good representation of what I perceive as the, almost old school Silicon Valley, lots of love and courage towards a goal that is really important, that is other than money. Really appreciate that about you, and I'd like to pretend that or imagine I'm following in that same wake of okay, yeah, there are ways to make money. They're spinning off of this. There's plenty of ways, but let's keep the goal in mind of what we're doing. AI for good. What is this platform becoming? As you said, the ground by which so many other good things come. And for those of you who've heard Ken talk about like, oh, well, curing cancer. Well, guess what? That's exactly the kind of thing that, the platform in place. I could just imagine Ken saying, okay, good. Now he's going to go off and do just that. Now Ken hasn't said that, but I wouldn't put it past him to be the guy who deploys the AI that is now doing the folding processing to see if it can discern a solution to the whole cancer puzzle. But okay, moving on. There was a talk recently in the Telegram group about being able to borrow crypto using GNUS as collateral. Has the team decided to go ahead with this?
Yeah, so we do have some projects out there that we've been looking at have to be the right one. And yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, I have my own kind of system where, I borrow against all my assets instead of selling them, because that then you don't pay taxes, right? That's what the wealthy do. And so I think that's probably a good idea to kind of look into being able to, borrow against other crypto assets and things like that. And we started some work on that a few months ago, where we'd put up some GNUS and somebody would pair it with something else, and on Base and a couple others, and we made some investments with some of the money that's with some of our treasury for different things, for liquidity purposes, but just a lot of different things, and including like when we got some treasury, some of the fees from the original sale and stuff like that. We put that into some places where it helps both liquidity, but and borrowing and things like that. So yeah, definitely checking that out after testnet though.
Yeah. Right now, the priority is testnet. Okay, moving to our next question. Most of us were patient and supportive through Q3 as per the timeline. It's Q4. What specifically is preventing you from launching testnet today?
Well, if you know anything about software, I mean, things slip, but like my engineer, disappearing for the smart contracts, I haven't been able to contact him for about a month now. I was hoping that he was just on vacation, but nope, no answer. So I had to jump in and kind of switch gears a little bit. I think it's just I don't know. What do you say, Brent? Because I mean, I thought we would have this done by now for sure, but life gets in the way with my health and things like that. So just there's a myriad of things, and I don't need to want to make excuses. We're working on it. It should be shortly, but I can't guarantee that it's going to be, in the next couple days or the next couple weeks or the next month. It should be soon though. And why don't you give your opinion?
My
Brett,
take is that, the best software that you could possibly have is the software that you did not have to write. Okay, and that may sound counterintuitive if you're not in a technical space, but we want as much as possible for our code to be based off of tried and true, open source, for example, minimizing how much we are ourselves having to put together. Our code is more of the glue to integrate it all together, and that has been a winning strategy for decades, for countless companies. It is, totally the way to go. At the same time, it comes with its own challenges. So you get some kind of code base that you're going to rely upon. You didn't have to build it yourself, and advertise this is the following 5 features it has, etc. And then as you get deep into the weeds and you're far along with your integration process and all managing all your other concerns, you begin to realize, wait a minute, one of those 5 features in that code, wasn't working as advertised. And so then it just turns into a little bit of a facepalm. And it's like, okay, well, now I'm going off and I am contributing to what is otherwise this open source code and having to go finish some work that they didn't really have done. Or it was done, but it had some bugs that it's not clear that they themselves were aware of. I mean, that's kind of the point of open source code, is to permit this kind of collaboration, implicit or even if accidental, if you want to call it that. But for all the advantages this gives us, and I wouldn't change it for a thing, it does mean that, even now we're encountering some of those things. Ken spoke earlier about seeing the size of the proof coming out of the ZK SNARK is larger than we'd anticipate. And that's something we've got to go chase down. We'd otherwise expect that to be working properly out of the box. But it's these kinds of circumstances and surprises that kind of create the friction where it's like, okay, we're, in that breathtaking of, okay, we're going to move into this stage, stage B, we're about to move into testnet. It's like, oh, okay, the friction of, this unexpected behavior, that unexpected behavior. And it comes with this kind of integration effort. And for that matter, the level of cutting edge work that we're doing. So the way some of these libraries and code bases have been used outside of GNUS, they are, blocks of open source code, usually are in a more, how should we say, a humdrum fashion. We're using this code base to produce, cutting edge results. And so we're more susceptible to finding bugs and problems in other people's code than the average consumer of those kinds of resources. So, but rest assured that we are like just white hot with our effort to cross these hurdles and get past them, because as much as everyone wants us to go to testnet, you got to believe we want it even more. So
I think the last thing of that, Brent, is that in general, I've always done things differently than everybody else, right? When we release stuff, and when I release stuff, it is absolutely almost 100% ironclad with no bugs. And so we don't have QA cycles in my organization. Everybody else, I could release testnet today, right? And then just things would just blow up on you every time you tried to use the wallet or something like that. It just wouldn't work, right? And then you lose people. And so I don't do that. I basically say, look, we're shooting for this date, but we're finding bugs in here, and we're not going to release the code, for everybody to test, because we know what that bug is. We know that it's going to create friction with people. And so our testnet is really like a release of a product in software terms. And I've done that my whole entire career. So I wrote the Immortal for the PC, and I did that thing in 5 weeks. And so it was a port from Apple II to the IBM PC. And I did a bunch of things, and the sound guy was like, there's no way you're getting this done in 3 weeks. And I said, yeah, watch. And I got it done in 3 weeks. And the sound guy was like, I haven't even converted the sounds for you. And I said, the code's already done. Give me the sounds. And it took him a couple of days, integrated that. We went to QA, and there was one bug in the code. And it was not a coding bug. It was a playable bug where you got stuck in a corner. And I fixed that, and I got stuck in somewhere else, fixed that, and the game shipped. And so that is unheard of. And so that is why my stuff takes a little bit longer than everybody else, because I don't release crap code that breaks. And we test the heck out of it. We got so many unit tests, and that's where this comes in, is like, look, we got the No Foundations Crypto 3 library, and yeah, it operates on these very small snarks, and we have this very large snark. So we're in there debugging their code and fixing their code to integrate with our stuff. But that ends up being a benefit to both that open source library, but also when we release, you're not going to have to report any crashes in the wallet or in the game or anything like that. And so we do a lot of testing. And so really we're kind of in our own QA cycle and at the tail end of that. And sometimes those take longer time. I mean, the development side of it's pretty much finished. We're integrating and then testing and QAing ourselves. And so, but we don't want to release it to the general public and have it just explode on them or break on them. We want this to just look like it's like, oh, this thing's been, this thing's ready to go. And I did that even at Amazon, where we had a phone that we beat out the higher end phone, and Jeff Bezos said, why aren't we releasing this? And it's like, it's ready to go, Jeff. That's the way I do things. And the other phone there were 3 or 4 iterations. And we were done, like in 9 months. So that's just the way I operate. And so people, I won't say I get tired of hearing about testnet and when testnet. I'm saying the same thing myself. I'm like, gosh darn it, we're so close. Let's get this thing launched. But I'm not going to launch it with a bug that's going to break the system.
And to fall into that, that mode of operation, that way of thinking and approaching software, that's something I share with Ken, and it's kind of a consequence of what is the most effective way to get software out the door, and that's to be focusing on quality up front rather than at the tail end. And this is one of the reasons why Ken and I work so well together, because we both have had enough experience to figure out that it is better to pay the pain, for example, of having to answer this kind of question. Why are you not on testnet yet? I would rather deal with this pain than deal with, we put it out there and people said, what is this? We just got this problem. It's like, no, that just actually ends up creating more delays than if we were to take the approach that we're following right now. So I'm in complete agreement with Ken on this.
Yeah, so one other comment on that is, I think that's kind of my whole career. I hated QA cycles because they're so boring. It's like, play this game over and over and over in this one level. And, oh, you found this bug. Okay, fix it. And I went to work and helped Crytek on the first Far Cry engine. And the same thing. I went there and I'm like, oh, where's your guys' unit tests on this? And it's like, oh, well, we don't do that. They had a bunch of PhD guys writing a bunch of software and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you guys are going to have a super long QA cycle. And they're like, oh, no, it's going to be a month and we're going to make Christmas. Guess what? They didn't make Christmas. It ended up being 6-month QA cycle. And for me personally, oh my God, I hate QA cycles like that. If you get into a project that's that messy and you put off all your technical, I'd rather do it up front, 10%. Spend an extra 10% as you go along. Because if you get in a QA cycle, oh my God, that is the worst. You're not creating anything. You're just hunting down bugs and you get headaches and you're in crunch mode all the time. And it feels like you're just a slave to your code and to your project. And it is not fun. And so that's why I refuse to like you said, it's way more painful than answering the question of when testnet. Way more painful.
Now, I spoke earlier about how it's easy to throw at me a technical topic as like a bright, shiny object, and I'll get distracted. And I'm going to resist the urge to chime in with what Ken's saying. I will just simply say, the last 15 plus years have been so much of my own approach for software is to do design and work and verification up front that prevents you from having to go into the kinds of extraordinarily painful QA cycles he's talking about, because that is just nails in a chalkboard in the worst way. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and move us along to our next question. What will the agreement with players, gamers look like in practice? Will you use their spare GPU for AI processing? Will they see a pop-up to give consent?
That's going to actually be up to the application, but yeah, they should. They should say, hey, do you want to watch ads or do you want to, not watch ads and play a fun game? Right? That's my point. But it's really not up to us. It's up to the end user. Like if they go on the App Store and the Apple App Store, they're going to have to go with their terms of service, right? And they're probably going to have to tell the guys and the players, hey, opt in for this, and can we use your GPU? And that's up to the game developer. And even the splits are up to the game developer. Like if they make a great game and they're like, hey, I'm going to take 100%. Do you agree to this? If no, okay, then pay $1.99 for the game, right? So it's really up to the game developer to do that. But we suggest a 70-30 split and just make a great game, and then you'll coerce the people to, or not coerce, but you'll market to them or get their buy-in on your game with the in-game items, and you'll earn all the money back anyway. And to me, that seems like the nice way to kind of onboard or get people interested in your game as well. It's like, look, if it's not working for me, I'm going to take my money and go somewhere else to a much nicer game that does play well. And so I think it's just a benefit for making great games as well, for doing it that way.
My own 2 cents on this is that this is a question that has to be treated from the Web3 perspective. And yes, we've gone over in the past how we don't necessarily like the word Web3, but Ken and I don't make all the rules. And what I mean by this is the whole notion of a pop-up for consent. That is 10,000% associated with, you are the product. On Facebook and these other social platforms, the posts that you make, etc., that's contributing to their revenue. That's contributing to their model. That's the theft of what is, your creation, and it becomes theirs. And this is why consent is so important. And here all of a sudden we've got a situation where, okay, you are not the product anymore. You're being paid, for your GPU being utilized. So do I have permission? I'm going to use exaggeration to make a point. Do I have permission to give you $1 million? Will you sign this consent form? It's like, just give me the $1 million, So really and truthfully, we are wandering into a little bit of unknown territory, as with so many things in the crypto space, the Web3 space. How offended will people be that they're being paid money? for while they're playing their game or whatever it is that they're doing. And so when Ken says it's left up to the software developers who would link with their SDK as to, oh, maybe there's this pop-up or a disclaimer, maybe there's not, it'll be a learning process for us as well, because, not only will we get the feedback of, oh, our players by far prefer to have the pop-up, or they by far prefer not to, uh,
Yeah, or settings or something like that. I think it's a user interface issue, really. It's like I'd rather have in my settings that, hey, yeah, it is weird for me to, consent for me to pay you money. It's like, no, just give me the cash. Do you consent? Here, I got $100 bill. Do you consent? Here, sign this consent form that I can give this to you. It's like,
and I think that what we'll find
yeah,
in time is that it will likely break down by the type of application, because given what application is linked to our SDK, some are going to be in a demographic that is, 14-year-old girl, other applications are the demographic of 30-year-old man, whatever. And depending on what demographic that application is feeding, is where you might find, well, this demographic was offended at not getting a pop-up. This demographic was offended because they did get a pop-up. In which case, we will then become savvy about, okay, here's our proposed model. Here's the people to give the pop-up to, and here's the people not to, and to reduce that kind of friction. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we've kind of...
Well, one other thing about that really quick is if you think about it, if you're playing a game, you don't give the game permission to use your GPU. They just use it because they have to give you graphics, right? And so this is kind of the same thing. Are you going to give me permission to use your GPU for something else? Like if I wanted to use it for AI in the game? No, you wouldn't do that either. Pop up. Yeah. So you have a tensor chip on your Google phone. Can I use that for AI? Pop up. It's so yeah. To me, we're not doing anything nefarious in the background, and that would be up to the developer. If the developer, it's not like mining in the background and they're giving you some value of an application, as they're not sneaking in behind you on an application and doing stuff. So you are getting paid for it anyway, right? Yeah. If you install our wallet, right, we don't sit there and go, hey, do we have your permission to operate in the background and pay you money for AI and use your GPU? That just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I get where people are coming from, because a lot of people have scammed where you'll go to a website and it'll install a JavaScript on your computer and things like that and mine in the background, and they take all the money. But that's not how this works.
This is, and part of this, the process of us establishing what is the best practice here is also just getting people educated that they are not being, how shall I say, they're not being used, they're being benefited. And I gotta say that we are, too far into an ethos of you're just simply being used. And so I think that's maybe a default assumption for people. And that's so unfortunate. We've moved into being a society that has less and less implicit trust. And I'm delighted to be, hearkening back to some of the other questions, a part of an effort that is, I believe, key to helping to reverse the tide and to start little by little, bring trust back into the community. So, all right, I think we really beat that one to death. So let's go ahead and move on to our next question here. How many calls did you engage to promote the testnet launch?
I think it's around 10, 11, but these are like, we've got hit up for probably like 100 of them hit us up, but we're vetting them very carefully and making sure they're not botted and a bunch of other things. And I have a team of 5, 6 people that are like vetting them and working on them and bringing them in. So they're kind of the the managers of the coals. And so I think we have 10 really high end ones, and so a lot of it was free, by the way. Some of those they just got a hold of the project, and in fact, I think the guy last week who was on our AMA is a coal and has quite a big following, and I'm pretty sure we didn't pay him any money. He basically bought his own bag and did that. So we do have some coals that we are paying a little tiny bit of money, and in fact, the one major one we are paying some money to, but he has, like I said, 1.7 million followers and things like that. So,
okay, I think we got that one covered. It's nice to have a question there's a fast answer to. I'll take advantage of that and move on to the next one. Is there a chance to bring Crypto Wizard on board?
We may have talked to them. I don't know. Just go into the chat and ask the general or somewhere in there. The admins would know better than me who that is actually.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that either.
It was written by Crypto Wizard, wasn't it?
Yeah. Something like, is there a chance to bring the great and illustrious Crypto Wizard on board? It's a little more telling if it was that way. Okay, let's see. When I'm filthy rich because of GNUS, can I name my son or daughter Ken? I love that one.
If you want, I love my name, by the way. So I love Ken, but it is kind of an older school name, Irish name, and my last name's Hurley. It used to be O'Hurley, so I'm part Irish and I'm part Dutch. So sure. I mean, hopefully you're Irish, and I think it's still a good name, but it's, Moon and Sun, and those are better names these days. And I guess that's still old. They're starting to switch back, but yeah, if you want to, sure.
So I think there needs to be a disclaimer placed on Ken's advice or grant, because Ken is very, very stubborn, which is a good thing in this context, because we're getting this out. We're going. There's single-mindedness. So if you want, your kid to be a single-minded about getting goals done, then, if you can manage that, then you're good. Okay, let's see our next question here. AI ML sold over the counter. It's Treasury 90%, nodes and 10%. Burnt equals huge supply dilution. This is kind of written in a cryptic fashion. What guaranteed Treasury results in market buy? Decentralized automated process needed. I may have needed to vet this question a little better because that was cryptic.
Yeah, why don't you, let's save that for, maybe there can be a question in there. It doesn't seem more like, let's move on from that one. If you want to rephrase your question, please. I didn't quite understand. It sounded like they were just saying what we're doing, but I'm not sure what the question was.
I think that maybe the key element in there was a concern about supply dilution, but the way it was captured, it was a little hard to follow.
I think maybe, let me take a stab at it. I think they're asking about when do we decide when the Treasury will be used to do burns and buybacks and things like that, because we are taking in a lot of money, but the whole ecosystem, without us even buying back with the Treasury money that we have, it works by itself. And so the only reason we would probably end up doing something like using the Treasury money is to make sure that we don't dilute the current share token holders. But one of the things about that is that I think we're going to have the opposite problem because of the burn mechanism. We're just trying to make sure that we don't go to zero outstanding tokens out there, because then it's like, then the network stops operating, right? And so we have no plans on driving the price up further, because then we don't manipulate the price, period. We won't do that. And so the only reason we'd use the Treasury is to make sure that the network is operating at full capacity, really. And then that would be like if people are selling too many tokens, and again, that's manipulating the price or using the Treasury to manipulate the price, and I won't do that. So it's always to keep the network operating at full capacity.
Hey, Ken, just a little heads up. Right towards the end of your reply, the echo I've been hearing all along suddenly disappeared, which tells me, and you dropped your hand and something happened, so you may have hit mute on something. No? All right. Well, maybe what actually happened is my medication finally kicked in and the echoing has now stopped. Okay. And I don't know if we should check with anyone, in the channel, like in the X Space. Everyone can still hear Ken. I don't know if we can see anyone give a thumbs up or something.
Yeah, I have the phone here. So, I wonder. Yeah, hopefully you can still hear me on the
Okay,
talk
your echoing
there.
came back on again, which I will assume is a good thing.
Okay.
Strangely enough, but
Okay.
okay. Next question. Do you have equity investors? If so, how will you give value to your equity?
We have no equity investors. Zero. Well, one. The Hurley Family Trust that was the main investor. So in Genius Ventures, I guess Mike Hara has some stock too. Me and Mike Hara. That's pretty much it.
And who is this Hurley family group? Oh, just kidding. All right. Moving on to the next question, because I think that was simple. Do you plan revenue share for token holders? Good utility would be to offset token dilution with rev share via staking.
We have automatic staking, so you don't need to worry about it. Just own the Genius token, and you get rev share because of the burn mechanisms and everything else. It's automatic staking there's no such thing. It's just, hold the Genius token, and then you're going to get rev share.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crisp.
It's more like dividends than anything else, and it's not specific to anybody. It's like whoever holds the tokens earns a percentage based on the number of transactions. It's like we're the a Visa MasterCard network, and you're a what do they call those? The little people that own the devices and things like that run the credit card processor, credit card processor.
Point of sale.
No.
Point of sale.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, point of sale stuff. And so, even though Visa's getting 3% of it, you're still taking a percentage of it too, basically. And so, and the credit card processing device is like holding, it's like Genius tokens, even though it's non-tangible. It's the same thing, same type of concept. So all the transactions that are going through, you basically get a piece of it. Every credit card processor gets a piece of the entire transactions, not just what transactions they're doing. So it's a little bit better than a credit card processing system network.
Okay, I think we got that one covered. I've heard that kind of question come before, so and it's kind of like orbited and come back again. Understandable that would be a common question. Okay, next one. Kenneth put his own money. I think that's Ken put in his own money. You should include this in RevShare also and cap it. Then you would have a healthy and sustainable model with growth.
I don't know what that means necessarily, but I do own a bunch of the tokens, so I do get the rev share from it. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole system. Point of the system is like why we'll probably continue to hold that entire amount. If you think about it, it's like buying a piece of property and then getting your own interest on it. I don't know what kind of analogy, but the longer I hold those tokens, it's just like forever income, right? Is if I keep them, I just keep getting income because they grow, and that's my kind of interest on that. And then the company grows because it has a treasury, which I can turn around and take it public and get stock and do that if I want to. But really, this is kind of my asset. Really, they're assets to me because they will generate money for me over the long term because of the burn mechanisms and the whole tokenomics behind it. So there's no reason for me to stake them. I'm just going to keep them. That's staking for me. And then maybe I borrow against it, so then I never have to pay taxes either. Okay, my tokens are worth $1 billion. Okay, loan me a couple $100,000 against those. Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, then I can pay it back, slowly over more time as it grows, just like Larry Ellison and every other billionaire does, that basically never sells their stock and they just borrow against it so they don't pay taxes. It's just the way America is, American tax system.
Well, this is something that maybe you could spend more time contemplating while you're on your 72-foot yacht, out with your Starlink.
In the Caribbean with my Starlink.
So
coding, doing these AMAs. You'll see the ocean in the background. And you have to remember, my wife is 11 years younger than me, so even though I can dream about doing that, it's like, oh, great, I got at least 11 years, 12 years, 13 years to go before I can actually really consider doing that. Because I'm kind of stuck with a beautiful woman that loves me so much for God knows what reason. But
On the advice of counsel, I decline comment. So,
well, this year we will have been married 26 years.
wow.
Married, yeah.
Well, that's you and me both. Sounds like I think it's the same amount, 26. So yes, we've both been very blessed with good wives. Let's see. We're down to two last questions. I also want to point out that besides from the fiddling getting started, we are now at over an hour and a half. It's now 11 a.m. Pacific time, and we don't.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up. The recording here is an hour and 25 minutes. I usually like to keep it under an hour, but we had a little problems, getting on and all that. So I wanted to make sure we got everything answered. So let's try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay, so we've only got two questions left, and I think we can go through these real fast. How do you make money? AI, ML, compute going into Treasury means you'll direct a part for operations, right? What amount? This all needs to be clear for people. I do think it's clearly listed in our website, but go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, so we take 10% of the amounts that come in, and we use that for operations basically, and the rest goes into Treasury. And so that's just going to sit there, and if we need it, we need it. If we don't, I don't know. Maybe we'll use it to buy back the team tokens, right? So that it doesn't come to the market. So it's just going to be used for 10% is going to be plenty for us. Maybe we take some of the Treasury if we have to onboard a huge corporation or something like that, and we take some of that Treasury and we hire out to do that. But they're also going to be prepaying to do it. So the Treasury is going to be built up even more. So maybe it's just a bunch of cash in the bank like Apple has, or Google has, and then we could use it for whatever, to give it out to people for, across the world for health reasons or anything like that, for charity or something like that. So yeah, it's just there to kind of build up so that we can utilize it for whatever we need to do to do AI for good.
And I think initially, I imagine over the first few months, it would play a role in liquidity. I mean, and that's kind of what Ken was saying, is managing exactly how the GNUS token is growing. So want to keep that stable. Okay, last thing. The reason this whole financial process needs to be cleared out is it stopped heavy whales of aping, and I could not provide them more info on this. This financial process needs to be cleared out. I wonder if that's referring to the exploit back in, May.
I think he means it needs to be cleared up, and so, and I will tell you, this is kind of a thing I've been thinking about a lot, because people were asking me, oh, well, should I wait? Should I wait? Maybe I invest after testnet release or after mainnet releases. And I'm like, you're going to be too late. Everybody at the beginning that's early, you think about it in Bitcoin, like if you invested in Bitcoin in 2011, right? Now people are investing and they're making money, but at $60,000, right? But if you invested in 2012, 2011 in Bitcoin, you're billionaire retired right now, most of them, a lot of them, right? The people that held it. And you got to realize this is going to be the same thing, because we're burning and we have the AI processing attached to the technology, and that's not going away, right? I mean, Bitcoin could have just dried up and Bitcoin needed people to use their network in order to keep the fees going and people to buy in and sell it to the next person in line. Very much like a Ponzi scheme. It's not, though, but it's useful. Ethereum came along and it added this technology, And the technology for the cryptocurrency trading side of things is all great and good, but if you don't have an underlying technology network to keep it sustainable for a long time, these tokens will just die off, right? And so we have that sustainable long-term network of usage that we need for AI and rendering and things like that. So it is like a long-term sustainable network that can be paid out in crypto. So the people that get in early are not only getting into something like Bitcoin early, they're getting into AI early and the networking side of that. But if you wait too long and you get in like a year from now when the thing is $500, yeah, you'll still make money on it, but you're not going to make nearly as much as the early adopters. And this is where risk and reward, like how much risk are you willing to take? Right. And that's what your investment should always be about. It's like, look, or other than that, it's like, look, I would rather you say, I like it because I could actually utilize those tokens as a utility. And that's what I've been talking to the big family offices about. It's like, look, we invest in your future usage, your commodity as a commodity more than it's more like commodity trading than it is stock trading. And so you got to figure it's like, okay, gold, right? If you invested in gold, people are like, well, what's my return on that? Well, if people use gold, in electronics and things like that, it reduces the supply. So your gold's going to go up, but it's not, it has to be utilized. And that's the same thing with GNUS. It has to be utilized. And so that's where, there's inherent risk, but it's not really an investment risk per se. It's more like a commodity. It's not like a traditional stock investment risk thing where you're worried about the company. It's more like, hey, we have all these GPUs available. Are people going to be using them? And I'm 110% sure the answer is yes.
And with that answer, which I found to be enticing, I don't want listeners to think that, based on what Ken said, that you should go off and buy GNUS coins this very second. If you waited maybe 2 hours, that would be okay. So,
yeah. Let the more risk. I guess the less risk adverse people get in there and drive the token up first. No, no, it's just not going to matter because whatever money you're going to put in, when we launch a testnet, and our plan is that this is a forever income for you. The longer you hold it, the more income you can make on it.
Ken, I think we have, come to the end of this AMA. I am interested in, like-minded with you to see if we can tighten this up, next time around. Maybe I can filter the questions or consolidate them a little better. Really appreciate everyone for hanging on the line with us as we went through this. Really appreciate the questions, and really enjoy being part of the all the excitement. And of course, like I said, the white hot development effort on our side. Boy, you got to believe we're excited. So, all right, Ken, your final thoughts or words?
No, I just, it's a longer AMA than I'd really like to. And the only reason I say that is because I want to get back to the testnet, coding on the testnet. That's the only reason I'm like, I took an extra half an hour, but I love the community and I love talking about the project. So, it's well worth it. And I just got to grab something to eat and then get back to the coding part of it. And I'll sit there and eat at my desk and get this last thing knocked out that I almost had done last night. Darn it.
Thank you, Ken, for again the energy and all the excellent answers. Again, I've given the thanks, and we'll catch you all next week, same time. And until then, take care.
Adieu.
Bye.
Bye.